The history of wine and how it got to France is kind of a mystery to a lot of people, not the least of which those actually fermenting the grapes, until now. Hello, Trace here from D News to talk about wine. Wine is an ancient beverage with roots back to Neolithic times. Wine cultivation is something like 6,000 to 9,000 years old, depending on your sourcing, with roots in the Near East, Mesopotamia, Persia, and Egypt. At its most basic, wine is simply fermented fruit juice, with the fermentation causing alcohol to build up in the liquid. Unlike today, milk and water were actually not considered healthful beverages. They were full of disease and pestilence, but thanks to the bacteria-fighting properties of alcohol, societies were able to stay nourished and hydrated. One Greek historian wrote, "The peoples of the Mediterranean began to emerge from barbarism when they learned to cultivate the olive and the vine." He means wine. In the West, France and Italy are pretty much synonymous with wine, and this week the National Academy of Sciences journal revealed the source of French wine, Etruria. The Etruscans were living in what is now northern Italy, and they traded wine with the Gauls who lived in what is now Germany and France. Thanks to this discovery, we know how the French got the source of their love of wine, these ancient Italian guys. This research was prompted when they found this artifact, a wine press, but they didn't know exactly where the wine got to France from until they broke open amphoras. They tested the molecular makeup of the remnants of the wine inside those amphoras, and researchers determined that the French imported their first wines and grapevines from Etrusca before beginning to grow their own. Ancient wine likely tasted terrible. Think of the worst wine you've ever had, if you're old enough to have wine. Now add the gritty, vinegary taste. Back in the day, this fermented fruit juice was often fortified with herbs and spices to experiment with the flavor and add medicinal properties. Also, since wine was being stored and traded in clay pots, the Greeks would use tree resins as a preservative to help seal it up. Some modern Greek wines still contain this resin, and modern wine tasters say that the flavor resembles turpentine. As wine in human society developed, we got better at making it, moving from clay pots to barrels and then eventually to glass bottles over thousands of years. Grapevines are highly adaptive to new climates, but grow differently depending on the climate, the soil, the water, and the weather. This is in part why wines in the Bordeaux region of France vary so much from those in Italy and Chile and California or Michigan or Virginia. As time marched on, we got a lot better at grape domestication, fermentation, and storage, resulting in more delicate wines. Today, wine is grown on every continent except Antarctica, and with the new fermenting techniques, the costs have dropped significantly, much to the chagrin of some of the older winemakers. Regardless of how you feel about wine, it is a big part of human history. What other things do we consume today that have this incredibly ancient history? If you know one, tweet at us at DNews, or come find us on Google Plus and Facebook and tell us there. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Cheers.